Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Action Awareness, I want to talk about Hostage Exchange of the Ignobles. Hostage Exchange is a standard action that allows the Ignobles player to trade minions with another player. You give control of one of your minions to another player to take control of one of theirs of equal or lesser power. Because of that clause, equal or lesser power, this is an even trade. Except it's not, and it should never be. Nothing about this trade should be remotely fair at all. This is a permanent control swap. Unlike Make Contact, which needed to remain in play, the two minions will remain switched until another ability forces a change of state, much like Flower Child. Minions could be returned to their owner's hand, which when replayed would restore the original control, but this is otherwise permanent. At least one half of it is. Hostage Exchange, obviously, is meant to be exploited. I used to have a problem with the Ignobles mechanic because it was gimmicky and fake, and that is because of Foot of the King. Regardless of what minion you gave away, Hostage Exchange should immediately be undone at the end of that turn with Foot of the King. This won't make you lose control of the minion you received, you'll end up with both. And this is extremely easy to do, much easier than Make Contact, and more permanent and uncapped than Cat's Paw. You have two copies of the Foot of the King, and I've already mentioned how this minion is essential to the Ignoble strategy, so Hostage Exchange should really not be played until Foot of the King is in place. Otherwise, you run the risk of letting your opponent use your minion for their purposes, defeating the point of the trade. This combination became easier with the Hill That Strolls, since he can also take back control. Unlike Foot of the King, the Hill That Strolls has to be on the same base, although Hostage Exchange itself fulfills half the prerequisite for bringing the Titan into play. So you could easily have the Hill That Strolls come into play on that particular base and immediately take back control, which is easy to do since he has no restriction on what base he can be played. You'll lose the power counter you would have gotten had he been in play first, but it does facilitate an easier Hostage Exchange play. There are other ways to circumvent the trade in the same turn using Aunt of Drakes. You can give control of another minion to get an extra action to play Activate the Spy, but this leaves you with simply a different minion under someone else's control. This is inefficient and a waste of your Activate the Spy. You could use the same setup to play Banner Call instead, but I prefer Banner Call to be held in reserve for a more Swarm style play. Between the Titan and two copies of Foot of the King, you should have no problem initiating what is really just a temporary swap. But manipulating the other side of the equation is much harder. You want to make an unfair trade in terms of power. Unfortunately, the Ignobles have no way of increasing power themselves prior to playing Hostage Exchange. You could bounce a minion between control with the Hill That Strolls and your other minions to farm power counters, but this is time consuming and requires a lot of setup. There are other ways to exploit the system that are easier. One of my personal favorites is Daisy Chain, which can be used in either direction. You can augment your own minion to have a greater margin for a trade, or you can negate someone else's to bring them closer to your range. Playing Leaf Armors, which can transfer off the minion you give away, allows even more room and can help you if for some reason you needed to play Hostage Exchange and score that base immediately. This might be useful if the minion's ability mattered more than the actual power, such as the before the base scores special, or if the minion you trade was on an entirely different base. Naturally, if you have Aunt of Drakes out, you may have your choice of minion, but you won't always have your king minion out, and other minions can grow outside of your range. Whenever a minion has extra power, even temporarily, you can create opportunities for exploitation, and in some situations, you can exploit Hostage Exchange multiple times. The Cream Puff Man is a great example, since Hostage Exchange can be played from the discard pile. The Ignobles have decent card draw, and when combined with the Ghosts, it's not unreasonable that you can play this card 3 or 4 times because Cream Puff Man can play it from the discard pile, ultimately putting it back on the bottom of the deck. Haunting makes for a great trade because he can easily get to 6 power before you play Hostage Exchange. That will get you most minions, and because of Haunting's ongoing ability, he should drop back down to 3. You have to be careful that your trade partner doesn't have 2 or fewer cards, because the other aspect of Haunting would kick in and prevent Foot of the King from resuming control, but I doubt this would occur often. On successive turns, you could steal control of 2 high-powered minions, making it very difficult for players to compete. And because Hostage Exchange can be played as a talent, you now have an extra action to use without Aunt of Drakes, so you could play Activate the Spy and break the base that turn. You've avoided giving away a second minion. When Haunting returns to you, you should have 6 power again. But why limit yourself to just 1 minion? As I mentioned in my introduction, Hostage Exchange is a standard action and the minions do not have to be on the same base. And the way it affects a minion is to change controller, which is perfect for the Dancing King. You can greatly swing a base if you play We Are Family on a minion on one turn, allow them to add 2 more, and then play Dancing King and Hostage Exchange. You can trade a minion on a completely different base, and you don't even have to worry about grabbing the highest powered minion. Dancing King and We Are Family can copy that ability onto higher targets, because they only copy the effect of the action, not the prerequisite. This can get you a base by yourself with almost no work, or at worst it steals a base from another player, giving them minimum value while you win out. The final part of Hostage Exchange that I wanted to highlight is this. Is it worth the effort? With few exceptions, it doesn't really help you break bases this turn. It's more of a mid-game action. If you can steal an important ability, it is worth it because you get it for many turns. Not even the kitty cats can do that. Vikings have to steal a particular card from the deck in order to do it, and the best cards may not even qualify if they are among the cards revealed. Valkyrie can steal this minion, but if it's an engine-style minion, opponents will be doing everything to keep it out of the discard pile. Even Make Contact's permanence is linked to its own existence. If the action is destroyed, control will revert. In this respect, Hostage Exchange is fairly unique when you consider its permanence, its uncapped power, and the ability to deterministically choose your target. That, to me, is what makes the gross exploitation fun, and why I'm okay with this being a play that doesn't necessarily contribute to breaking the base, because I often value plays that help me win several bases, and Hostage Exchange, with the right target, can facilitate that. So is this a gimmick? Yes, but at least it requires the right setup. One that is easy enough to replicate, but it is not a guarantee. It is harder for the Ignobles to do a Hostage Exchange on their own, and I appreciate that it offers a chance for unusual synergies and unusual playstyles. What do you think of this card? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.